head-to-head. Mike Vick back with us this morning. All right, Mike, which quarterback's got the edge on Sunday? Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers, for sure. He got the edge, and not for a lot of different reasons. I know this is going to shock my man Nick. Look at my man Nick. Nick, I know you think this is funny, so let me elaborate.
No, I'm happy.
I only say this for a couple reasons. And it's because of the elements alone. And I know Green Bay, first and foremost, they're going to be looking to right all the wrongs from what happened in the first game this season. And then Tampa Bay, they're going to watch their film and think that they got it all right. But on the flip side, Green Bay is going to be, waiting for everything that they seen the first game, because why would you deviate from what worked the first game? Why would you go away from it? And I think that's the way the Green Bay Packers got to be thinking in terms of how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to come out and try to play on both sides of the ball. But, I think what it's all going to boil down to is the elements. It's the weather. Tampa practicing in Tampa. And it feels good out here in Florida. And I would love to practice in this type of weather every day. But when you watch the Green Bay Packers practicing in the cold, guys are breathing. You see the cold air and the mist. It's that type of environment. This is where Aaron Rodgers wanted. He got it, and he's the guy right now that's playing with, the smirk of confidence written all over his face. And I can't take that away from this guy right now. I think TB12 is going to have his work cut out for him, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be super ready for this contest.
Vic, I love it. Finally, it's taken a while. Mike Vick and I have been on opposite sides of a lot of equations, but we're back, buddy. And so here's the thing. I think everyone on the panel agrees Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest players in the history of the league. I think everyone agrees with that. This is the biggest game he has played in 6 years. The last time he played in a game this big was against Seattle in the conference championship game, a game he actually didn't play that well in. Despite that, they had a 2-score lead late. McCarthy took the ball out of Rodgers' hands, got super conservative. All of a sudden, 10 minutes later, Richard Rodgers, different Rodgers, is screwing up an onside kick. Russell Wilson's going back to the Super Bowl. At that moment, Tom Brady hadn't won a Super Bowl in over a decade. He had 3 rings, 2 consecutive Super Bowl losses. Rodgers was this close to getting to his second Super Bowl with a chance to make the ring debate. At that point in time, Peyton had 1, Brady had 3, Breeze had 1. Rodgers like, I'm about to get 2. I'm about to blow past all of them. And he hadn't been close since. You might say, well, Nick's, he's been to 2 conference championship games since. He has. He was down 31-0 in the first one and down 27-0 last year. The other 3 years, 2 he missed the playoffs, and 1 he lost a playoff game. Lost a playoff game where he completed 2 Hail Marys on the same drive, and they still lost the playoff game in overtime to the Cardinals. It's an all-time great player and an all-time big moment for him. So obviously Brady's an all-time great player, the all-time greatest player, but this is roughly the 11th biggest game of Brady's career. This is the 2nd biggest game of Rodgers' career and the biggest he's played in 6 years. I think he's going to step up to the challenge. I think Rodgers is great, and I think that's why the Packers win, Brandon.
But Tom Brady doesn't have to go against Todd Bowles. Guys, look at the last game.
That's true.
The premature discount double check. You think about the picks, the picks, the sacks. He doesn't have to go against Todd Bowles. So Tom Brady has the edge. And the genius around Todd Bowles is this. Blitz, 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 blitz. But it's not predictable. You don't know when it's coming. I wouldn't be shocked if they actually come into this game with the bend but don't break mentality. I wouldn't be shocked if Todd Bowles says, look, guys, let's put 8 guys in the box, 8 guys hug the line of scrimmage, and then we drop into coverage and make him think a little more. Make him go the distance, 11-play drives, 12-play drives. If he wants to beat us with field goals, so be it. Let's give it to the GOAT in the 4th quarter to go win it. I wouldn't be shocked there. Tom Brady doesn't have to go against Todd Bowles, Kevin, so the edge have to go to the GOAT.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to ask Mike a question. Mike, as you know, I'm a Patriots fan. I'm born and bred. And you were talking about the weather. Old Tom Brady, we were making plenty of snow angels on the way to the Super Bowl in Foxborough. You went into Lambeau, won a game in the cold. And so let's assume that the quarterback, Tom Brady's going to be fine. Are there other players on the Bucs that the cold affects? Because it feels like all we ever talk about is the quarterback. And I think Tom Brady, who spent his entire career in New England, is going to be totally fine. So what other players or how else can the weather affect the other guys?
Yeah, well, Tom has spent the last year in Tampa, so his blood probably thinned out. He even admitted after last week.
Yeah,
and when I played in Philadelphia, I was built for the cold weather. Look, when we won that playoff game in Green Bay, the week before we had just left Cleveland, where it was like 14 degrees and all my teammates challenged each other to go out and not play with sleeves on. So, 27 degrees versus 14.
Guys,
I was ready for it. But that wasn't the case. They was in the dome last week, and that's what scares me more than anything. So my man TB12, as much as an Iron Man as he is and the GOAT that he is, I mean, at some point, it all catches up with you. And hopefully it's not this weekend, man, but they got the elements to deal with.
Well, and I'm going to add another wrinkle that I don't know if this leans in Brandon's favor of the argument or mine, but there is an underrated multi-year, formerly NFC North rivalry that will resume this weekend. Aaron Rodgers against Ndamukong Suh. And those guys don't like each other. Suh is an all-time great, and he actually, if you know Suh, and I'm sure Vic and Brandon do, off the field, he's like incredibly like a sweet guy and really smart.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But something happens to him, and then he gets on the field, and he's a maniac. I mean, he's a scary guy. And he's had some really questionable moments with Rodgers. And Rodgers is a quarterback who we know will talk trash right back to you. So I do wonder and I know Suh's on the inside. I'm going to bring up the left tackle for a moment, Brandon. Bakhtiari's out. So if all of a sudden, if you have to start helping out your backup left tackle, slide protection that way, does Suh get some one-on-ones, and can Suh get to Rodgers?
Yes, he does.
Because and so that to me is an underrated important part of this game is no Bakhtiari. You're going to help out on the edge. What does that mean for Ndamukong Suh trying to come up the middle? And by the way, and we're not supposed to say this on TV, but I'm going to say it. In the NFC Championship game, sometimes it's worth 15 yards. Sometimes 2 steps and a hit on a quarterback early is worth 15 yards. And Suh knows that. So that's something to watch for as far as for your prediction, Brandon. Can Todd Bowles and the Bucs defense get to Rodgers?
Yeah, he's another guy with a different mindset. Remember, Nick, I played in Chicago for a couple years, so I saw Suh twice a year for 3 years.
Oh, that's right.
And I saw him torture poor Jay Cutler. Oh, my God. I used to be on the field, and because I knew Suh off the field. This big teddy bear, smart guy, super savvy, quiet, just awesome. But then he gets on the field, like you said, and he just morphs into something different. I just saw him torture Jay Cutler, and I'll just look at Suh like, Suh, are you okay? What's wrong, buddy? So, Mike, Nick brings up a great point, man. Suh could be an X factor in this game.
Yeah, and I can recollect on playing against Chris Jenkins and multiple defensive linemen who come in the game and they like to talk smack and they like to pull on you and tug at you and they like to irk you. And sometimes that becomes a part of your mental psyche and it can screw you up. It can totally throw you off. And, Aaron Rodgers, he's been one of the quarterbacks that I've watched all season and almost like Patrick Mahomes. When I watch him go into a game, when I watch him play, I almost think that they're not going to lose. And it's been the case that way all year with Aaron Rodgers in terms of confidence, just his whole aura. And, Ndamukong Suh can be the one who can disrupt that, but Aaron Rodgers is on a totally different level right now. So look out.